This presentation is part of a workshop voicing indigenous food sovereignty struggles, which has been organized by the project Indigenous Food Systems in Transition, financed by Future Food at the Swedish University for Agricultural Sciences. Furthermore, the workshop was organized in collaboration with Case Study 18 of the Horizon 2020 Finance project Just North. You are welcome to listen to the lecture. I welcome the first presenter, Elena Bogdanova from NARFU University in Arkhangelsk, who has worked with these issues in many years. So please, Elena, welcome to make a presentation.
Thank you so much, Ildikor, for presenting. And I would like her to start with, so it's not the news, but well, so I will present somehow, give some overview of some results presented in our book. So it was very nice book, combined the efforts of different Russian researchers working at the Western Siberia. And also we had, thanks to our collaboration with our Finnish and Swedish colleagues as well. So and we presented some results on the climate change, how it impacts food security, and also their food sovereignty of the indigenous people in the Arctic. But what to start with? Reindeer herding is deeply rooted in the traditional food culture of the indigenous peoples in the Arctic of Western Siberia. And strengthening the position of reindeer herders in the food value chain could contribute to security, securing healthy, accessible, and culturally appropriate food for local communities and reindeer herders, while promoting the desired lifestyle of the given group. And food security for this group of the indigenous people cannot be addressed in isolation, but is linked to other food sovereignty and economic security. Therefore, both physical and economic access to reindeer meat is in sufficient quantities connected to their engagement in the export market and their participation in the food value chain. However, due to export trends in reindeer products, the need of and position of indigenous peoples in food value chain are jeopardized. And additionally, COVID-19 pandemic has brought other stresses for this group. So here is the list of on the slide of key issues of food sovereignty that is raised by FAO and Inuit Circumpolar Council. You can see that among those are high prices that impacts for everything, for food products, for energy resources, that impact strongly on their economic vulnerability. And also climate change is one of those. And the COVID-19 pandemic came to the scene in 2020. So what is the main trend for now in this field? So it's decreasing food sovereignty of the indigenous peoples in the food value chains. And it impacts, of course, many things. And among of those, changing traditional diet. So I would like to say that, of course, we can say that it also impacts traditional lifestyle, but we also need to think that the modification of traditional lifestyle is a natural route. So the lifestyle of indigenous reindeer herders in Western Siberia is changing now. So they are using innovative food devices. They are using some, they are living not only in the tombs, but they are also have some apartments in the settlements and so on. But so it's changed, and it's not only the impact of the food sovereignty issues and food security issues, but also what is more important, it's the increased dependence on imported food products and its health risk. And this topic will be raised by our colleagues from Russia, medical doctors, who will go deeper to this. Climate change has had a strong influence on the Arctic ecosystems and jeopardized the indigenous people's food security and their well-being. And the climate change is expected to have both positive and negative impacts on reindeer herding. And this climate change and the extensive exploration of reindeer pastures have resulted in overgrazing, for example. This has forced the indigenous people to change their nomadic routes. So what was our aim here? So at this presentation, first of all, we would like to give some overview on dependencies on indigenous peoples on the reindeer produce, export, and food value chain, and try to answer the issue. So, and to explore how the dependencies of reindeer herders could be increased in their export chains and how the provision of their products to local communities could be secured. The methodology for our study was based on the FAO's Sustainable Food Value Chain Framework. And here in the Yamal-Nenets Autonomous Okrug, you can see their food value chain as a network of stakeholders involved in producing, slaughtering, processing, also distributing and consuming reindeer products. And the systematic approach into the reindeer food value chain in Yanao has revealed strong dependence of reindeer herders on their stakeholders, so-called brokers, processors, and government institutions, which make them a vulnerable group and establishes barriers to entering the global market. And individual reindeer herders, so that is almost the biggest group, at least almost 60% of all reindeer in Yanao belong to individual reindeer herders. So that's rather powerful group in this case. And they are not involved in the complete processing of reindeer products and have to accept the rules imposed by wholesalers and other retailers. However, the herders are keepers of precious traditional knowledge, we must understand that, and this knowledge are about utilizing reindeer and strengthening the involvement of reindeer herders and the food value chain can contribute to Arctic indigenous economies and maintain their traditional lifestyle. So what are the main impacts of COVID-19 pandemic? I will not pay so much attention to this. Just I would like to say that it, of course, affected strongly food security of indigenous people as a vulnerable group, and they faced a number of issues due to that. For example, they had limited access to food, fuel, medications, vaccination procedures for reindeer and slaughter facilities, and also increased production costs and the prices for reindeer products slaughtered, they dropped actually. And this falls in line with global trends because the pandemic, of course, caused and has impacted food security for sovereignty, not only reindeer herders, but also other social groups. But here you can see a very curious Tundra SMS, as we can say. It's made on helicopter, high no meat. So it was made like 5 years ago, but it's still relevant, unfortunately, because we can see that there are different reasons for declining consumption of venison. But the most important of them, from my point of view, are changing nomadic routes due to climate change, because this connection is evident. Then what is economic issue is transition from a subsistence economy to a commodity one. And this kind of commodity economies are really different because now the most profitable production is product is velvet antlers. And especially in the northern regions of Yanao, more profitable to be focused on this velvet antlers production, but not meat production. So, but of course, it's useless for indigenous people who want to have this access to reindeer meat. So we analyzed the longitudinal trends in the climatic parameters and reindeer livestock population, and the REMAR forecasting model showed that with the continued increase in rates of average annual temperatures, the growth of the reindeer population in the Yanao will continue until 2025. And after 2023, the dynamics of reindeer population growth will slow down or even become negative. What does it mean? It means that so after 2023, so their population will be slowly decreasing. So so the access to meat even can be decreased. So what can be possible solutions? So of course we can do not change anything. We can limit the number of reindeer per herd. We can think of strengthening state governmental management of reindeer herding, or switch to the forestry pastures, but well, it doesn't work in the northern parts, no forests there. So it's only possible in the southern parts of the Yamal-Nenets Autonomous Okrug. And of course, one of the main possible solutions for me, it's development of biotechnology, so for reindeer herding products, and what can be very interesting steps in this field. So first of all, we needed to stimulate reindeer herders to produce more meat. So we need to stimulate them to be involved in meat, but not only velvet and fleece production then. So we need to impact or we need state regulation of prices. Actually, we have state regulation of prices for reindeer products, and Valentina also mentioned this for Kolapin also today, but we need even much more stimulation. It can be the high prices for reindeer products can be a perfect stimulation for slaughtering more reindeer. So it, of course, will impact profitability or reindeer herding husbandry. And so the entire carcass of reindeer will be used and will be consumed. And it will be very positive impact on beer production. So, but also we need to increase quality management concerning standards and technology. So it needs also training of reindeer herders and opening new field laboratories to support this quality management in tundra. And of course, then, so reindeer herders will proceed with the procurement of reindeer products for bioproduction, but they needed to slaughter, provide the storage facilities and so on to meet these quality management requirements, and it's very important. So this quality control, and then so supportive for efforts from scientific research, and of course state support will be very useful in this case. So we are offering some the list of urgent short-term measures and also the long-term measures. So what can be very useful? So first of all, nomadic reindeer herders, they extremely need this economic and legal consulting service support. And because they are running their traditional business, but some of them are not so well educated, but they need and they are very welcoming. So, and extremely interested in these consultations. Then so cooperative forms of reindeer husbandry. So I mentioned that so they are not so interested sometimes in cooperative forms of business, but the government of Yanao encourage reindeer herders. They initiate new forms of state support for cooperation of reindeer herding farms and peasant farms also. And it can be very interesting. And for me, so my communication experience with the reindeer herders in Yanao showed that wives, so I mean women, they are rather well educated, and they can be a good good at managing running this business on their settlement in the settlements. Then we needed to organize veterinary services in the settlements and provide reindeer herders with medications for reindeer. Then price fuel, drinking water, some equipment at reasonable prices also can be very helpful. And of course, monitoring. So because monitoring systems, monitoring health, monitoring nomadic routes, and monitoring some needs of reindeer herders also can be useful. As for long-term measures, I think that of course, this involvement of reindeer herders into bioproduction is a long process. It's not it can't be done quickly. So it needs a long process of preparation for that. And also we needed to develop some more subsidizing programs, especially price support, and also medications and reindeer fuel, and also monitor the consumption of traditional food products that can be also very useful. So thank you so much.